All right, welcome to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel, and today we have special guest Julie Lanaux. Julie, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. So, I really appreciate you getting on today. I met you through, I don't know if I really met you through White Rock Co-op, but I've seen you around, and then I've sort of started running with you guys as of kind of recent, but you've
Yeah.
been around the running community for a long time.
Yeah, I've definitely seen you all at races for years, long before I met who you and your wife were. So,
Yeah, most people are like, well, I think you're Leah's husband, right? You
yeah,
know,
there you go.
That's what most people say. So, but we've both been in the running community for a while. And,
Yeah.
one of the interesting things that I thought today is that, you're big in the community. You actually are the admin today of one of the admins of White Rock Co-op, the running group. I mean, it's a very popular group, you know.
Mhm.
And I was talking to Jose Lopez the other day, and he was like, "Yeah, this guy Chris something started. You can probably tell me about it and things like that." And I was like, "Oh yeah, okay, this is how this got started." And then, he left, and then other people got into it and all this other stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute, though. But I'm very interested in learning about you, Julie, your running kind of journey, and who you are, and all that kind of stuff. That's really what we're all here about.
Sure. Do you want me to start off where
Yeah,
yeah.
tell me a little bit about how you got in
Sure.
running.
Well, I always joke that I'm disappointed I didn't run in high school. One of my PE classes, we did, I guess it was like a month in each sport, and we did track. And I loved it, but I kept getting side stitches, and no one ever told me that that actually just goes away if you keep running. And so I just thought, this is the most painful sport. Why would anyone do this?
Forget that. Yeah.
So I'm really disappointed because I did like it, and I think I'd be an even better runner had I been running in high school. But for years, it was not something I wanted to do. And then my father-in-law was a big Ironman
Mhm.
competitor, and he actually made it to the finals in Kona one year.
Wow.
And I guess he was my fiance at the time, and I went out there to go see his dad finish. And it was
And you're
back
married
in
to
the
this
days.
guy now.
Yes, yes.
Okay, got it.
And so that was back in, let's see, was that '06?
Okay.
And back then you could actually have family members finish on the course with you. And so my husband or and then fiance actually ran like the last tenth of a mile of the Kona course. And I mean,
Nice.
he was in cargo shorts and I don't even remember what kind of shoes. They were definitely not running shoes, but he finished. And when he crossed through that chute, even though obviously he did not do the full Ironman by any means, just the energy, he's like, we have to do a race. This was
Into
amazing.
something, yeah.
And so that was, I think like October. I don't remember what time of year. And then the next month in New Orleans, they had a Thanksgiving Day run that was 5 miles. And so we decided, okay, we're going to do this and went from couch to 5 mile because that's a smart
5
plan.
miles. That's
Uh,
not a recommendation that I would, unless you
no,
did some running before, but
no. And I really had no idea what we were doing. And so I went to like Foot Locker or something and found some cute shoes that were on sale and bought them, not
yeah,
knowing that I should actually have shoes that work for my feet.
yeah.
And we ran 5 miles. We were so slow, they actually turned the clock off on us before we finished. And so it was, if you
Well,
want your time, just write your time down. And I almost blew out my knees because I ran in the exact opposite shoes of the shoes that I needed. I
oh
couldn't
my
make it
gosh.
downstairs for days. It was,
Wow, and you kept running. That's kind of
I
a bad
know.
experience. Before we kind of
Sure.
continue that journey, is what like you mentioned in high school you didn't do running. Did you do any sports or anything like that? Or
Yes and no to the extent that you count ballet as a sport. But
I think so.
I was with a ballet company, and so it was a lot, not just, a lesson once a week. It was 6 nights a week that I was
Wow.
dancing. And so I did a lot of physical activity, but no sports. No,
I mean,
that was kind of
that's
the joke.
a pretty intense sport. It
It
takes a lot
is.
of talent.
It is. But, to my dad, it was not a sport. And
Yeah,
so he
but
kept waiting for me to be in softball or something. And so
soccer, running,
the joke
whatever.
Right. And so the joke now is every time my sister was the one that was in softball and things, but I'm the one that ends up in the sports pages for races and things. And I'm like,
So-
yeah, who would have seen this coming?
All right. So no, I was just curious, if you had any kind of, and I mean, it's interesting ballet because, if you're a ballet or anything kind of like person that can be stretchy and things like that, they say don't run, but
Yeah.
runners should be in yoga kind of thing,
Yeah.
but if you're completely in yoga or especially in ballet stuff, no way, you know.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that you did that.
Yeah, it was a transition, but and all the bendiness I had from ballet is completely gone now that
Oh,
I
of
run and sit
course.
at a desk all day.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask you about that. Are you still pretty limber
No,
or no?
no,
Can you
I
touch your
I'll take
toes?
a yoga class and it's embarrassing when the 7-year-old lady next to me is touching her toes and I get to about my knees and I'm like, okay, that's it. I can't go
That's
anymore.
all I can do. Leah was making fun of me yesterday, as a matter of fact, because she's been working on it in a big way. And I'm like, well, you could touch your toes, basically, and I can just touch my knees.
Yeah,
So
that's
she
most
goes, that's
runners.
sad,
So yeah,
Chris. Chris, that's sad. So back to your running. So you run these 5 miles and you hurt for a long time. You have the wrong shoes. How'd your husband, what's his name again?
Andre.
Yeah, Andre. How did he feel? I mean, was he
Oh, we were
feeling the
both
same?
dying.
Oh,
It was terrible, and it was an ego thing. Neither one of us wanted to admit we needed to walk, so we kept like trying to push for as long as we could before we had to start walking. I mean, it was bad. But
that's pretty funny.
well, the ironic thing is he's the one that really liked it at the time.
Oh,
So even though he's the one that doesn't run anymore, but he got us into doing the Dash Down Greenville, the St.
yeah.
Patty's Day race here. And he's like, okay, this one will be fun. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I can actually train for this one. And it's only 3 miles.
Yeah, it's a lot
Far
easier.
better. And but we had a whole group of friends that did that. And then that just it started a whole thing from there because
So
this was really
you're a
fun.
big community person anyways, it
Yes.
sounds like. You just like
Yes.
a lot of people hanging out, and
Yeah.
I think that running is great for that, right?
Yes. That's the biggest appeal for me.
Yeah.
It's not even the running so much itself, it's all the people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I love so sometimes I'll get out of the people thing like and start doing, because it's early in the morning or it's cold, and I'm just not mentally always kind of there, It's like, oh, but once I get there, I
Oh yeah.
thrive on the community aspect of it. It's just
Oh, it's
to me
much harder
amazing.
to run solo than when you know you have people waiting on you and then you get out there and it's great. So,
So you run this 5K, you enjoyed it this time or
oh yeah, we definitely did. We had a good time with it. And then there's beer afterwards and the parade. And I was like,
better?
oh, this is fun. And so little by little, I don't remember what we did next from there, but at some point I was like, I think maybe I could run a half. I'll never run a distance further than a half, but I'm gonna do
Yeah,
a half. And for some reason I picked the hottest half, which that race is no longer around, but it was
I wonder why.
regularly 90, 100 degrees.
That's the worst. Like
I know. And that's why I stuck with running after that because it was one of the worst halves I've ever run.
I remember last year, I think I decided to, try to run about a half marathon every single month. And this is kind of where I'd get my speed workouts, right? And maybe I'd do a 5K here and there. And of course I'd run. Anyways, I did like 3 summer races here in Dallas that were half marathons. And I even paced. I don't recommend it because, I can generally run, mid to low 130s, these ones were extremely hard. Like I
Yeah.
could barely even get it, and I was actually in pretty good shape. And I'm like, this year I didn't run one half marathon in the summer. I don't even remember like one race I did. So
Well, I paced some. I did not sign up for running anything this summer.
it's tough, like to race, especially, you know?
Yeah, because you're racing more against other people than
Yeah.
for time because you know you're not going to set your best time when it's 80 degrees at the start line. So,
You will not
no.
ever. I mean, unless you never ran before and that's just your best time,
Yeah.
It's actually a good time to maybe do it. This way you can
Yeah.
PR easily the next time.
Yeah, maybe that was the secret to the hottest half. Was like the next one was guaranteed to be PR if I ran in that heat.
No doubt. So were you prepared to run that half marathon?
I was. I did train for that one.
Okay.
So that one was not a disaster other than the heat, but
How'd you do? What was your first half marathon time? Do you remember?
I don't remember. Probably a little over 2 hours is my
Okay.
guess. I'd have
It's
to
not
go
bad.
dig. I don't remember. Um,
That being the summertime like that, that's actually pretty good.
yeah. No,
Good
I don't
anyways.
remember it. It might have been 210 or something, but I feel like it wasn't anything where I went, oh wow, 4 hours or something.
That'd have been
It
tough.
was
I mean,
still, yeah.
so you run this half marathon and you're like, pumped to do another one? Is that kind of or
Yeah. For a little bit, I would do halves, but I thought, oh, a marathon's crazy. I'm never going to run a marathon.
yeah.
Famous last words. It's what everyone says, and the group
Yeah,
sucks you in. And then all of a
they
sudden, you're
do.
like, oh, great. Now I'm signed up for a race. So then I ended up doing, I guess, what was White Rock, then became Dallas, and is now Run Dallas. So that was my first full marathon in 2009.
Well, I mean, how'd you do? Did you like, I don't want to do this again, or?
So the funny thing is, I actually turned around and immediately signed up for another. I signed up for Cowtown right after it
Oh,
because I got out there and it was one of those days at Dallas where the weather was perfect. I think it was in like 30s or 40s. I mean, it was ideal marathon weather.
yeah,
And, I'd never run a marathon before, and everyone said, oh, it hurts a lot. And so I'm
true.
running and everything's hurting and my throat is burning. And I'm thinking, well, this is one of our first really cold days. I bet
Yeah.
you it's because I'm breathing so hard. And I was trying to break 4 hours on my first. I think I ran 4:09.
Okay.
And I got home and I just, I'm like, oh, it wasn't what I wanted to run. And then my husband came over and he like put his arm on my shoulder or something and he goes, you're burning up. Turned out I had
Like,
strep and I
oh,
didn't know it because I just associated every ache and pain with, oh, the marathon's supposed to be bad. And so then it was like, no, no, no. If I came this close, this sick, I can do it at Cowtown. So I signed up for Cowtown 2 months later. So yeah, I mean, I was sold after the first. That was it.
huh, that's so interesting. And, I guess it's probably positive that you didn't know that you had strep because maybe if you did, you're like, ah, I'm not going to do this.
Oh, I don't know that I would recommend running a marathon with
I mean, I wouldn't
strep.
either, but I'm just saying, if there's a positive to it, it's like you didn't know. And so it
Yeah.
didn't keep you from it.
Yeah, because I mean, I woke up that morning feeling fine, but it was just as the day went on, I
Got
think my
worse.
immune system was getting ground down from all the pounding, and then just as the day goes on, just the illness is taking over, and I was a mess by the time I got home.
Were you running with a group then, or just kind of on your own, or what did that look like?
No, I was running on my own, and because I was running on my own, long miles are miserable, and so
Uh-huh.
I do some of them just looping the lake, like 2 loops of the lake to get 18 miles in. And then
Yeah,
I signed up for as many races as I could. So back when DRC used to have, I
10
don't,
races
was
a,
it,
a
yeah,
month
it was like
or a year.
10, yeah, something like that, plus the DRC half. I ran every one of those.
Yeah.
Plus, I would usually run at least one other race a month just to give me someone to train with, even though they were all races,
Yeah.
at least to give me people.
That makes sense. Now, when did you start kind of thinking about the community running with groups and things?
So I guess in 2011, so the White Rock Running Co-op was formed on New Year's Day, 2011.
Yeah.
And then I started hearing about them pretty quickly after that. I think Mark O started trying to tell me, you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, I don't know that I'm gonna be fast enough. And then there was a woman in the group that I knew, and she and I tended to come in similarly in races. And so I knew she was
Uh,
running with them. And I thought, okay, if she's running with them, surely I can do this. And so I guess I joined in like May of that year.
yeah.
And it was just, okay, well, this will give me some people to train with. And I don't know, maybe 2 weeks in, it was like, I'm sold. It's
Mm.
so much nicer to not be running all these runs solo.
You met a
So
lot
that was
of
it.
you met a lot of friends there. I mean, you
Oh,
still hang out with a lot of
absolutely.
people now.
Oh, yeah. Some of my closest friends are all running people, and they're all people that I met in the group.
Yeah,
And I mean, I've traveled the world with, a lot of them.
that's pretty cool. That running community has done the same for me. Like, whether it's a specific races or just our life is around running ish,
Hmm.
and our friends are pretty much running friends.
Yeah. It's
So
hard to have other friends, though,
yeah,
because we're the only ones that understand, hey, I can't really go out Friday night because I have to be up at 5 o'clock on Saturday morning. Or, I mean, even during the week, I have all these friends that are like, oh, let's go to happy hour. Well, no, I got to meet friends in the morning.
yeah.
I can't go.
I gotta
So,
go meet at somebody at 5:30 or 6 or whatever it is.
yes. Yeah. So, you kind of narrow your friend circle very quickly because people are like, oh, you never go anywhere. No, I do. I just do it at a different timetable because I'm running.
You've done all these there's some races and stuff, but now like you don't do a ton of races. You do some.
Yeah, I more enjoy the community aspect of it. I will tell you, racing makes me nervous as can be.
Does it?
Yeah, I get so much anxiety. And then, for me, I guess I was racing a lot up until 2019, and then the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to sign up for races because particularly a lot of races I do are out of town.
Yeah.
And I wasn't going to book all that and then find out that it went virtual. And now I've got a trip planned
Uh,
just to run a virtual race.
uh,
And so I guess until 2022, I didn't even really start looking at
races
racing
again.
whatsoever. But,
Did you
and
stop
then
running a lot, or did you still run as much?
I,
I
it
was
was kind of a
curious.
combo. For a bit during the pandemic, I was running probably more because
Same.
I know that they were, one, you have nothing else to do,
That's right.
and you're not supposed to socialize with people. But I always figured if I was outside, it was safe. So
Yeah.
I would literally get up, run with a friend, come back home, work for a little bit, and then I'd have a friend message and say, "Hey, do you want some miles at lunch?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why not?"
Start doing a lot of
And
mine.
then, and then after work, it would be somebody else is like, "You want to run?" Yeah, why not? I mean, it was my way of seeing friends.
Yeah.
And so I ran like crazy. And then, but I had a health scare in 2021 that I ended up having to have surgery. And that put
Yeah.
me out almost all of 2021. And so
Wow.
then it's kind of been a rebuild.
Okay.
So, yeah.
You've run a pretty good half, like within
Yeah.
the last year or so. I mean, low 130s. I mean, you're
Yeah.
pretty fast.
Yeah. And somehow I'm still setting PRs, but I had always heard what was the rule is something like 10 years. After 10 years, you stop really progressing. But I mean, I've been running since I was 6, so it's still working for me. We'll
You're
see.
this is you're killing it. So 2011, 12, whatever it was, you get into White Rock Co-op and you start becoming part of the community. When did you? I mean, now you're an admin of that community. What is that?
Yeah.
I mean, you do a lot of stuff. Like, I mean, you're.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's kind of crazy. I mean, I think others step up too, but it's
Yeah.
a lot of work.
It is. And I don't think people realize how much work it is because there's a lot of people with a lot of ideas,
Yeah,
but they don't want to do it.
that's right.
So I joke that I get voluntold a lot. But, but yeah, I don't even know exactly when I became an admin. It was one of those, it wasn't something I even was looking to do. I just woke up one morning and I had all kinds of extra access and some like announcement post saying, "Congratulations." And I was like, "Oh, okay, great."
So I just
And
give you access.
and then
That's pretty
little by
funny.
little, people move away, people stop
Yeah,
running,
yeah.
life gets in the way. And so everybody that was there in the beginning, I don't think any of them are left. I think I'm the one that's been around the longest. I mean, granted, I joined like 5 months in,
Yeah.
and we were formed in 2011, so we've been around a while. But I think at this point, I'm the last one that was like consistently running with us from back then. And so I've been around long enough. Most people know who I am. And so I'm the one that people tend to reach out to for things because they know me. So again, I get voluntold lots of things that we
Well,
need
I
to
think you're just easy to talk to, and so people probably
do.
feel, oh, Julie, let me just reach out to Julie. I mean, like, I love Javier, but I'm not saying he's as easy he is. I mean, once you get to know him, right? But it's, you wouldn't think, oh, I'm going to go ask Javier. You know what I mean? Like,
He's
Julie's
not
probably
the
the
nice
person.
one.
It's not mean, but I'm sure he'll listen to this. But it's true. Like, I would have probably reached out if I wanted something. I would be like, oh, Julie's the admin or whatever. But once you kind of get to know that group, I think everybody's pretty friendly. So
Yeah. For the ones that are there all the time, I'm one of the more approachable, I guess, admins.
yeah, you're
So
very approachable. So you're doing all these? I mean, what do you do? What's the reasoning for your running? Like, is there a specific why? I mean, why you consistently do it?
for me, it's really the friendships at this point. I'd love to say, okay, I'd love some more PRs. That's great. But even if that never came, it's seeing my friends. I mean, I realize it when I've had things where I've been injured for a period of time and I can't run, and I still show up like post run just to see my friends because I haven't seen them in a few months, and oh, I
I love
miss
that.
them. And so much of it, it's just the community. I feel like runners in general tend to be nicer people. And I think a lot of it is because you see people at their best and their worst.
Mm.
And so you build these bonds with people, when you're out there and, something's cramping up or you're injured or it's just the hottest day ever or it's, like the weather we're about to go into where it's 20 degrees and all I want to do is complain the whole time that it's so cold.
Is he gonna get
There,
20? Oh man.
I hope not. I'm sure it will be in February, but
Yeah,
it
I'm
needs to
sure.
be a ways off. But you like build this bond with people that you don't normally, because I feel like you see them all the time and you see them in some really really good days. You come off
Yeah.
that PR on a race and I mean it's just wow, you helped me get here, but then at the same time on my bad days they're the ones that drag me out. So it's all about the friends.
Well, 1,000%. The one thing I really like about, building relationships in these running communities is it's watching people progress over time. It's kind of fun to see like I could see like if you and I just met and you just started running and stuff and we started running for a little while, I would be able to see that you have some talent, and I'd be like, she's got if you're running 140, she's got a 130, right? It's like she just started, but it's going to take time mentally to get there. And so what people have to do is go through this mental state of, hey, I'm running 140. That's the best I can do at best. I don't know if I'll ever hit under
Right.
a 140 or whatever. And then 5 years from now, 4 years from now, they're hitting under 130s, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like a half marathon or something like that. And to me, it's like watching that whole kind of mental aspect of running and watching your friends kind of, go through it, even
Oh
yourself, like
yeah.
we all go through it. It's not just them, but for me, I'm pretty secure in what I know I can do now. And I still try to push the limits in a way just on the half marathons, but I just love like, watching people, just get better. They start, but if they stick with it, that's the key. But when they do that, they just get better and better. And
Yeah,
it's,
it's fun seeing people do things that they don't think they can do.
yeah.
We had a guy that came to run with us and he'd really never run before. And he started running and we went out and I think we did 6 miles that day. And we're running and we're talking about races and, traveling for races. And something came up about the Crescent City Classic and how, that's a race that we usually have a bunch of people from the group that do it. I've actually never done it. And we were talking about that. And I was like, yeah, I mean, not all of them are marathons. That one's only a 10K. And goes, oh man, I don't know that I'd ever run that far. And here we're finishing. And I go, so if you had run 2/10 of a mile longer, you have run a 10K.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh,
Oh,
wow, I can do this. And then, I mean, within 2 months, we did a run and he did 13 miles on a run. And we made him run 13.1 because we're like, you got to run a half. Come on. But here was a guy that just thought, a half marathon, whatever that means, is
yeah.
just some astronomical distance. And it's not that it's not, but it was kind of cute just to see him say, oh, that's something I'd never do. And then we're looking and we're like, well, I hate to break it to you,
You
but
already
you're
did
running
it.
your first half.
But it's fun because, you know, we've all kind of been there and thought, a marathon or a half marathon, no way. A
Yeah.
marathon, no way.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like, a marathon is a long ways to go. For me, I've done three and done some 50Ks. And, when I run a marathon or race, I want to race it. And then, for me, like, I don't, all that time and effort, and then you blow up during a marathon,
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of a frustrating experience. Like, like, I felt like shit the last 6 miles, and it was literally like I was gonna die.
Yeah.
I cried after one of my marathons. Like Leo was there. I wasn't embarrassed because I felt like shit. You know,
I think
so
we're open there. So, yeah.
yeah. Um, what's kind of any fun stories that you can talk about through kind of about the group or maybe a race or anything like that you can think of?
I mean, I'm sure I have 1,000 of them if I think about it. One of my favorites, Kevin Roberts, who used to be an admin for us, he runs less now because he's taken up pickleball, the new thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is.
he sold us on doing this grandma's, and we were sitting at taco joint one day, and he's like, "We're going to do this," and I'm like, "No, there's all the hotels are sold out. I'm not going to do it." And finally, he makes a deal with me. And he's like, "If I can get us a hotel room, will you go?"
Mm.
Okay, fine. And at the time, my husband was still running. And so the three of us decided Monday morning, like Kevin has somehow secured a hotel room. I don't know how. Great. Okay, we're going. And we get out there and it is pouring.
Oh man.
It's bad. And my husband's like, I'm not running this. And it's a point to point where they bus you out to the start. And so he's like, I'm just gonna find a way back. Like, okay, fine.
So he gets there and then decides not to do it. Okay. Wow.
But the best part is Kevin and I start running, and I guess we're about 6 miles in, and I hear, Julie, Kevin, and I look, and here's my husband standing on the side of the course 6 miles in with an umbrella that he didn't have when we left.
All this
And so
stuff.
the two of us just point at him like, I can't wait to hear this story.
Yeah.
And it turns out he couldn't find a ride back, except there was a family that their daughter was running her first marathon, and they were trying to figure out how to spectate. And they offered to give Andre a ride if he would show them kind of like time-wise, if she's expecting to run this, where would we go pick her up to see her on the course? So he just got adopted by a family, including an umbrella. And Along the floors in multiple spots. And every time I pass him, I'm like, how is he still here?
How does he keep doing this? He made friends. Talk about community. He made
Oh,
friends quickly.
he definitely did. It worked out. He got his ride back. And for them, they didn't know, if there's a spectating spot at mile 6, how long should they give her to get there when
Oh,
all they knew was, I don't remember what she was trying for,
she
like
was a runner.
4:30 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so they're like, I don't know how long we need to leave it. And Andre's doing the math going, okay, well, we probably should be here at this point and here at that point. So
So all I had to do was math, and you get the ride.
he did. It was fantastic.
I love that. You know,
So yeah.
some you through the running community, you hang out with Javier and his wife and others. Like you go on vacations, not
Yeah.
running vacations, just vacations.
Now we
That's
had a
pretty
group
cool.
of 8 of us go, let's see, what was that? October. We went on a cruise together and went scuba diving and all kinds of stuff. There was no running involved. But and they become really close friends when
Yeah.
it's someone that you spend so much time on the roads with at 5:30 in the morning when no one else is awake.
Yeah, and I've been to some of your meetups, and I'll continue to come. It's been cold
Okay.
lately, and I was like, ugh.
I get it. It's cold and it's the holidays. Nobody wants to run right now.
But I'm trying to push myself to get back into it, and run with it. Like I've got to try to incentivize myself because for a while I've been running kind of alone, and I just can't sustain that because you know how it is. Nobody likes to run alone, especially 10 or 15 miles. And so, I'm trying to pick out, okay, I'm going to run with this group on these couple days, this group on this day, and this group on, you know what I mean? Just to start mingling with folks and things like that. So, because I
It's
love,
good to get out and
yeah,
see the other groups and you figure out for a while there when I first became an admin, I ran with every group I could find in the area because I was trying to figure out what do they do that I like, what do they do that I don't like, that maybe I don't even realize we're doing things that it's putting people off or so yeah, I mean I was going as far as like to Denton just to show up to runs, especially in areas like Denton because
oh,
there weren't as many runners that knew who I was. If I show up to a run out at the lake, most people, somebody's
yeah.
going to know me. But you show up in Denton and you don't know anybody. And there were definitely runs that I showed up to and I went, oh, I don't like the way this functions because there's no attempt to like include new people. And, I'm relatively outgoing, but I can only imagine if you're pretty introverted to show up to something like that. I don't think I'd ever go back. And so there's things like that I went, okay, we need to do things different because I see how it feels to be the outsider at something like this. And I don't know. I think that's invaluable to get that kind of outsider's perspective
Mm.
for your own group.
I love that. What do you think kind of sets your group apart?
I mean, we try to do as much as possible with the socialization part of it. The
You
running
guys
part
do
is,
very well.
yeah, and running is huge. Obviously, that is the primary goal. But there are so many groups that you come out, you run, and then it's everybody, great run, get back in your car, see y'all next week. And then you only meet the people that run your pace and distance. And so you meet 3 people in the group
Yeah.
versus 100. And so we have really tried to make it to where, while yes, you're only going to run with certain people, there's more to invest in the group than just those people that you get to know. And so one of the things for us, anytime, we always have something afterwards where people come get coffee, tacos, a beer, something. And then you can sit with whoever. And
Yeah.
so you're getting to know people that have run all kinds of different things. And the one thing that I'm adamant about, any place we pick for post run, I do not like individual picnic tables
Yeah.
because then you end up with the awkward like high school experience where you have to ask to sit at someone's table if you don't know anybody. And that
Mm.
for me is terrible. So everything we do, it has to be something where we're like sitting at the bar and it's one long table, or like White Rock Ale House is great about some real long tables. We'll go meet up out there because then it's not, if you don't know anybody, you don't have to be the kid going, can I sit with you all? Because I feel like that's such a turnoff to so many people, especially if you're really shy.
I love that. And then that's very interesting that you think about that. And I think that's great. I mean, a lot of
Well, that
people
was the
don't
experience I
sit
had in
down.
Denton.
Yeah.
I went to this run in Denton and it's all set up on picnic tables. And yeah, if you don't know anybody, you have to say, hi, I'm Julie. Can I come sit here?
Yeah.
Never know if you're going to have like the mean girl crowd or what.
Who
And
the hell are
so for
you?
me, I just saw that and went, I don't like that. And so that was something that I very quickly was like, we are never doing that. Any
Yeah.
restaurant we do, it has got to be big tables because it's far easier to find an empty bar stool at the bar sit down and then say, "Hi, I'm Julie. I think I saw you at the run this morning," versus having to ask to pull up a chair at someone's table.
One thing you said earlier, and this is why I started pushing hard my group, the DFW running group, is
Mhm.
specifically like when I only ran with the Dallas Running Club. Still think they're great and stuff, but but my issue was is that if I ran with them, then I had a group. So the group could have been at that time was 320, and so the only people I met were in the 3 hours and 20 minute, marathon group. I didn't even know there was a half marathon group. I think there was, but I didn't talk to them. I might have talked to some of the folks in 310 or 330, but other than that, I didn't know anybody. Like, I was
Yeah.
like, man, I only know like 20 people in this group, like how do I
Right.
expand it, and so I thought, it'd be kind of interesting to have a group that just like for me, it's not a group like yours where we go socialize. It's just kind of this digital group. All this, but is it more of when I see a face, I want to be able, at the lake or at a race, at least I recognize that face, no matter how fast or slow or whatever pace they run, didn't matter,
Right.
and I do think that's important because we're all here doing it together. It doesn't matter with our pace, I mean, we run a pace so that we can hit goals, and that's okay, and that's good. But we're all runners, and none of us are pretty much experts in.
Well, and I think a lot of people get caught up in that and pacing. And while everybody's pace obviously is important to them when you're
Sure.
racing, and people get so worried with, oh, this one's too fast. And it's like every, whatever pace you run, that is a fast pace to someone and it's a
Yeah.
slow pace to someone else. And
Yeah.
so it's all relative unless you are setting the marathon world record. Probably what you're running is slow compared to those guys. So, I
I
don't
was
know.
talking to this guy today. He was the winner of the Dallas Marathon, Travis, whatever, Dowd, and really fast, right? Like in college, he was running 14:43 5K or, 3 mile, right? Like, oh my God, this guy is really fast. He is. But he said, Chris, he goes, I couldn't make it to nationals. You have to run a 13:40. And the reality is like, there's always somebody faster than you for the
Yes.
most part, unless you're that number one person. And
Right.
and he's not. There's always levels, right? And we're all trying to hit better levels, and none of us, for the most part, are going to do this for a living, because there's not much money in running, anyways.
Right.
So, so it's just
And I don't feel
it's
like most people want to pay a 3:30 marathoner. There's not a lot of money in it for me.
yeah. And even him, like he ran a 226. That's not really. I mean, he has potential. He's young, but he's not elite yet. Elite. He's elite for Dallas, but
Right. Elite locally. But yeah, I mean, most of the fastest guys I've ever known, I mean, they're still not fast enough like to make the Olympic trials. So
exactly.
it's you can be the kid that wins
You have to run like a
everything here now.
217 or
I
something
know. So that I know people get so worried about pace, but it's
for
like,
men's,
oh,
but
there's always someone faster and someone slower. Just accept where you are. If you don't like it, then train harder so you can be faster. But but I mean, I don't know. I just there's a little bit of the mean girl attitude I feel like sometimes with that stuff, and I don't understand it because there are days that somebody will look at me and they consider me fast, and there's definitely other people that look at me and think I'm one of the slowest runners. And hey, look, I'm good with what I do, so that's all that
yeah,
matters.
I think we have to accept that. The reason I run is obviously the community aspect, same as you, is the biggest opportunity, but it's also kind of to stay in shape, to be healthy, to think about, not gaining weight. All those things to me are key. And I mean, what else better than the community of runners that we're in, and
Oh yeah.
also, kind of keeping our weight down and all. That's why I do it. I
Well,
mean,
and there's something enjoyable too about even when I'm not out there training for a PR somewhere, just seeing my friends get it.
yeah,
Or, you get the newer
yeah,
runner that needs some help tweaking things and you go, look, if you did this a little different, this may help out. And then all of a sudden they do really well and you go, oh, look at this. I mean, that's part of why I like the group. And I don't always run my fastest runs. Sometimes I'm out there just to run with other people because it's nice to see what they're doing and where they're going to be 6 months from now. Or, I love to pace for the same reason because you get
yeah,
out there and there's something about you're with these runners and they all have all these hopes of, I need to hit this goal today. And, obviously not everybody does, but
Yeah.
even if you cross that finish line with one person, they're usually ecstatic because that was their PR. And it's like, man, I helped this guy get there. That's
That's
awesome.
right.
There's something that even if I'm not the one setting the PR or winning the race or whatever, there's something enjoyable about seeing everybody else do better than they thought they could.
Did you run Dallas this? I thought you were going to, but something happened.
I was planning on it, and I even went and picked up my bib. I had all my stuff laid out, but my husband had the flu, and
Oh
then
no.
lucky me, I got it. And when I was still awake at 2:30 in the morning, the morning of the race, I finally just turned my alarm off. And I have realized now that the most depressing thing in the world is to have all of your stuff laid out, including your gels. And I had the pins and the bib. I
Oh,
was ready. And so to get up that morning and take all that apart was like, this
that
is awful.
sucks.
And I was sick. So then it just piled on to like how bad I felt because I was like, I'm so sad right now. And then, you see everybody else and they're like, oh,
You
had
should
so
have
much
went back to
fun.
the thought of, I'm not really sick. This is just the way I'm supposed to feel, like and just did it.
I
Just
mean,
joking.
look, the funny thing is, so last year I just spectated. The year before, I was sick for Dallas and I
Oh
still
man.
ran it. And it was one of those, we're just going to run by heart rate because every
Uh-huh.
time my heart rate starts screaming, let's just back it off. But I was a little less sick that time than I was this time.
Yeah.
And I just kept thinking, I was at that point where I was like weak if I did too much walking around. And I'm like, man, I'm going to collapse
Well, the
on this
fluid kicked
board.
your ass, man. I mean, so
Yeah.
you called it. You did the
Yeah.
right thing.
I really didn't want someone to have to stop my Garmin while I'm passed out on the ground. So
Stop my car, man. Please.
just save it.
I did this much at least when I was sick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the title will be "Ran 6 miles with flu during
Right.
Run Dallas."
Oh, yeah. There's definitely, look, when I have those bad days, there are days that I post that I'm like, this is a stupid run, but I did it. Tell me I'm an idiot for running, but it's fine.
Yeah. One thing you mentioned is pacing. I really love pacing as well. So I paced the Run Dallas this year. And interesting enough, although it was really warm and extremely humid, a lot of people in the 150 stayed with us pretty much the whole time and then passed us the last couple of miles. And I was like, it's slightly surprising because that doesn't usually happen with conditions like that, but it did. And it was so much fun to see. There's this kid, I think he looked like he was 10, but he was 14. And he was like, I tried to run this last year and hit, I don't know, 155 or something like that, but I'm trying to hit 150 and he killed it. Like within like 3 miles, he just he passed us and just kept going. I was like, wow, he did it. A lot of people did. So it was fun to
Yeah.
see.
No, that's nice. And then, there's something fun about, I had a guy that ran with us when I paced Tour de Floor.
Yeah.
And, you know, right after that, he started like commenting on all my runs. And so I'm like, okay, this guy, I feel like he wants some community. And so I was like, hey, come out, run with us. Come out, run with us. And so now he's been out to a couple runs but he runs solo. And I'm like, look, it doesn't have to be us, but you need a running group. If you want to get faster,
Yeah.
some people can do it on their own, but one of the easiest ways is to join a group. And so I kept pushing him. And so I was really excited when I see him show up because I'm like, look, he listened.
Yeah, you do good at that, like just recruiting and things like that. I mean, do you
I
do that a
try.
lot or?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to keep a group alive, you have to, because
Yeah.
again, people move, people get
Yeah.
injured, people just decide, you know what, pickleball is better than running. I mean, you never know. People disappear. And so you have to keep bringing people in. And to some extent, selfishly for the group, the more people we have, the more we offer,
Yeah.
because we don't have paid pacers and pace groups and distances. So for us, if I have 10 people at a run, that's a maximum of 10 different paces. And some of those people may be running the same pace.
Yeah.
If I have 50 people at a run, well, now I've got some more options. And so the more people we have, the more I can say, look, we have people running this faster pace. We have people running this slower pace, those kinds of things. It makes us able to offer more to other runners, because I know no one wants to show up and then you're the only one running, whether it's a 5-minute mile or 15-minute mile, you don't really want to show up to a group and still have to run solo.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to recruit.
Yeah. I mean, you do pretty good. When's your most heavily attended groups? Is it Saturday and Sunday, I assume? Or Sunday?
Saturday's definitely the biggest. Sunday's
Okay.
pretty big too. But yeah, I mean, and Wednesday night, I joke that that's our like friendlier version because
Party night.
yeah. Josh is really good about making it fun.
Yeah.
And it's just 3 miles. I mean, obviously you can add more if you want, but I feel like it's less intimidating knowing it's only 3 miles
Kind of like a fun run
versus,
ish,
yeah. And,
together.
it doesn't have to be, you can come out, you can run it hard, you can run
Yeah.
10 miles if you want. But really what we advertise is a 3 mile run, which is just inherently less scary than hearing 10 to 20 miles.
Yeah. Yeah, I
So,
went
yeah.
out to Jose Lopez sent me a message the other day and he goes, "Hey, we run on Saturday and Sundays." And I said, "Okay." I go, "Maybe I can do it Sunday." And he sent me a message on Saturday. "Hey, I did 20 miles today." And I'm not in shape to do 20 miles. I could do
Mhm.
maybe 10 to 12 or whatever. And I'm like, "Well, I'm not going to be running 20 miles tomorrow. Happy to run and hang out, but not 20 miles, And so I showed up. He just ran 10 miles with me, but so I think you've got to do that, right? Like you have
Yeah.
to have the right mileage and it's probably kind of hard. I mean, because it's organized, but it's not, hey, do this pace, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, we're organized, but it's very loose.
yeah,
It's very casual.
yeah,
There's, you don't have to sign up. You don't do anything. So because of that, I never know who's coming. It's, we may show up and I go, oh, there's only four of us here today. Okay. Or, the next time it's 40 and I'm like, oh, wow, there's a lot of people here today. I don't know why. So yeah, it's more flexible because we don't have the organization, but at the same
yeah.
time, it's a little more chaotic sometimes too.
Like that. I love your group. And I think the flexibility is always good, but just people are always wearing the shirts, which I think that makes it a thing, right? Like people
Sure.
see it because, it's local and pushing out the Facebook posts and other posts on Instagram. And, that I think that really helps carry it too. Not just the shirts, but, people are wearing them. It's true branding. You guys do a really great job of that. So,
Well, the founders, that was his kind of plan was, you had these other races that would set up, or other groups that would set up booths at races and advertise their running group. But half the time, you're getting people from out of state. They're not going to come run with me. And so for him, it was just, we're going to sell the shirts for as cheap as possible
yeah.
because I want as many people in the shirts as possible. And I want people to keep seeing the shirts at the lake going, who are these people that keep passing me? Or at races, somebody wins it or they win the age group, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. And you think, man, maybe I should run with these people. They look kind of fast.
Yeah.
And so that was our marketing. It wasn't, we don't do any big pushes. We don't have a tent with the branding
Yeah.
on it. We don't have booths at races. We don't really do a lot of that. It's just, we're always out there. You'll see us in gear. And hopefully that's enough to capture people's attention.
Yeah. And I bought a shirt for the first time. So can't
There you
wait
go.
until that comes out. No,
Yeah,
I'm
you should
really
get it
excited
next
about
month.
it. So,
Hopefully they're good. We haven't seen them yet, but
well, I'll still wear it. And like my wife, Leah, she's the one that was put. It's like, oh yeah, I gotta buy it. So she's like, I already bought mine a long time ago, Chris. You need to. Julie, did I miss anything?
not necessarily, my biggest thing, I'm always recruiting. So anybody that wants to come out and run with us, please do. And, I hope we're not that intimidating. I try to make it to where we are as approachable as possible. That's not always so easy, especially because most of the time for us, our most outspoken members, I guess the ones that post the most tend to be the ones that
Yeah.
trend faster. And so when all you see is 7 minute mile, 7 minute mile, 7 minute mile, it's real scary when you're the 11 minute miler going, I don't know that I can run with these people. Because
Yeah.
that was my impression of the group before I joined. And so, I don't want people to have that impression of us. And if you are considering running with us, look, shoot me a message, post in the group, tell me what you're looking for. Because we've had a lot of that lately where, even I think it was this last weekend, it's the holidays. We've got Dallas Marathon. People are coming back. And we had someone that wanted, I think it was 16 miles at like an 11:30, and she posted that. I loved it. She posted in advance and I said, okay, give me a minute. Let me see who I've got out there. And sure enough, we had another woman in the group that was like, oh, I can run that. And so I was like, look, see, we have company. You have to tell me and then I can find
I
it.
love that you do that. I mean, that's some work, you know?
We try, but I'd rather that than they show up and then they don't have anybody to run with because no one knew that someone needed that pace.
Yeah.
And, there's just so many people that stay home because they go, I don't know that anyone's running this. And no, there probably will be someone, or if there isn't, if you post, you will drag other people because they'll go, oh, look, someone's running my pace or my distance. That's the biggest thing is just getting people involved. But, while we do have a lot of serious runners, and I guess I don't want to say serious. It sounds terrible. We have a lot of people that are pushing the faster paces that are scary. But we also have runners
Well,
that
they're pretty
are,
serious runners,
yeah,
so.
but we have the new runners. We have
Yeah.
the runners that are just out there casually enjoying themselves. We have all those things. It's just ask. But, for me, I think the biggest compliment I ever got on the group, it was 2 complaints, but I take them as compliments
Hmm.
because I got them in the span of a week. One person complained and said the group is too serious and too fast.
Yeah.
And then someone else says the group parties too much. And I was like, if
The
we
group
can be
party's too
both,
much.
we're doing it right. And we do. I mean, that's the social aspect that I was mentioning. We will come out and we will train so hard at a
Yeah.
Saturday run, and everybody's dying on the run. It's fantastic. You finish and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I did a great job. And then I'll go inside and have a mimosa and a taco with some friends. I mean, that's how we
I
do
see that
things.
as one is, okay, the group's too fast. Fair enough. All right, we'll find some people for you. That's good. And then you guys party too much. Perfect. Thank you. And
Right.
then move on. Like that's how I'd see that, That's
Well, that was
actually,
my thing. If we're both, I am doing something right, because that
yeah,
means we are both training hard, but we're also still enjoying life, because I don't want to be the person that trains, and then it's like a job. We
yeah.
make it fun, and we try to make it as fun as possible. We just did that Christmas lights run last week from Ale House, and we ran past, I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's that crazy house, Electric Lizzie Land. I've never seen anything like it.
No.
It's worth seeing if you haven't seen it. But we did this run, and I mean, we get out there and we spent 15, 20 minutes just walking through this random house that's all lit up. Every inch of the house is glitter.
That's
There's
awesome.
dioramas everywhere. But it was like, here's the good spot. I think it took us an hour to run 2.5 miles because we're
Perfect.
all just stopping, we're taking
Yeah.
photos. But so it was a little bit of like, let's go have some fun. And then everybody had a beer after. I mean, that's what I'm looking for. It's social, but it's like, I want to work hard when I'm working, but then I want to have a good time. And I think we are both.
Yeah. And I think that's important is, like there's this group, I guess we're still called TDR or whatever, but on Thursday nights we get together, we kind of have a little lull from like November to February where we don't, but for the most part we'll get together on Thursday nights at 6 or 5:30, and we don't even run anymore. We do our own runs late, before early in the morning or whatever. We're still all runners, but we just hang out, maybe have some beers at what is it?
And
Norbuck.
then
Yeah.
you go, yeah.
Norbuck Park. And that's it, like sometimes we'll go up to the local bar and just hang out, if it's too dark or whatever. Hey, let's just go to the bar, that's just the way it is. And we still talk about running and how things are going and things like that. And I think every aspect of the community for running is important. Like you said, you can be as serious as you like. You don't have to be all that serious. You have fun. That's what humans do. Like people are serious. I mean, look at Javier and Nick and all these other people, right? Even yourself at times pretty serious about your running. But, you still like to have fun and enjoy it, because that's just being human.
Yeah, I don't want it to be a job.
Exactly. We all do this to stay in shape, to look as good as we can and things like that. But we also can have some beer.
Mhm.
So, well, Julie, this has been great.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you coming on. And so thank you for those that are tuning in to another DFW Running Talk. I'm Chris Detzel. Please rate and review us. Your stars are important so that this gets out to the running community in Dallas. Julie, thanks again for coming.
No problem. Thank you so much.
All right.